What's up, Reefer Revolutionaries? It's 420 in California. This is Reefer Revolution Live.
But I think in terms of marijuana, and legalization, I think that should be a state issue, state by state. I think it's up to the states, yeah. I'm a states person. I think it should be up to the states, absolutely. You know, I know people that are very, very sick, and for whatever reason, the marijuana really helps them.
Good people don't smoke marijuana.
Well, for whatever reason, the good people at Cannabis Culture are the compassionate canary in the corporate cannabis coal mine. As Prohibition 2.0 kicks into full gear, Vancouver literally shutting down cannabis culture in legal Canada. But in a nice way, eh? HR 420 is in the Hizz-ouse as the biggest and best cannabis caucus moves to take marijuana off the CSA under the DEA and puts it under the control of the FDA, the Treasury Department, and the new Alcohol, Tobacco, Marijuana Tax and Trade Bureau. Time's up. Free the plant, free the people. As the new Reefer Madness and Prohibition 2.0 gets ramped up in New York, I wonder why, the cannabis media starts to get more serious about journalism.
Good people don't smoke marijuana.
Oh, except for the good people in this chat.
Yeah.
And everybody over at We TV, the Cannabis Media Network. What's up, Reefer Revolutionaries? I'm indeed Dave Conan, and this is indeed Reefer Revolution Live, the show where we spark up, talk about marijuana in the mainstream media, the politics of pot, and cannabis cures every week here on YouTube at 420 Pacific. And when I say we, of course, I mean my partner in all things and cannabis too, Coach Chela.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
What's
so nice
up?
to see everybody in the chat.
Oh my!
So vibrant.
I love it. I love every Sunday now when we go
So
into
great.
that little musical green room and everybody starts jumping in the chat.
Totally. It's lovely.
It is lovely. Stabby McStabwood back for more this week. Welcome back, my friend, and we will catch your show next week. Embracing Organics. On Thursdays, hosted by Dirtman Dan. Welcome. We do, and
Cool.
we love growers media. We love all kinds of cannabis media. We're meeting a lot of great cannabis media, in doing what we're doing as new cannabis media. Lots of fun. And this show is one of them. So welcome everybody. Ellen Blasey in the house, one of our patrons. Welcome Bonnie Lee, a contributor over there on Streamlabs as well. And folks,
Awesome.
you can also become a patron if you are so inclined. There is a link at the top of the channel as well as a Streamlabs link. But we love the fact that we're being shared. We're being shared all over the place.
Thank you so much.
That's really what we want. We want to get this information out. We want to get this education out. We want to get the news to the folks that want it about cannabis legalization, quote, legalization.
Right.
In this Prohibition 2.0, people, we're watching it before our very eyes in Canada and in California and from coast to coast in the United States where legalization is happening or is on the ballot or on the brink of happening somewhere. So welcome everybody. Who else? We got, I saw MDM Niles. Happy Guy just jumped in. We got Cannabis Sativa. Welcome Cannabis Sativa. Welcome everybody to the show. This is indeed Reefer Revolution Live. We do this every Sunday on YouTube at 420, but we are also streaming out over Facebook, Periscope, Twitch, DLive, and of course, as I said, Weed TV, the Cannabis Media Network. So we're going over as many platforms as we can think of.
We haven't figured out Instagram yet, but we're going to get there.
Well, we have to get vertical for Instagram.
I could do a little one right now of us as like a little teaser.
You know,
maybe.
we could do that. We could do Green Room in Instagram. That would be fun.
We could do that.
And we could do check-ins. We could do Instagram during the afterburn.
We're totally learning this stuff,
while
guys.
we're watching videos. You can do an Instagram commentary.
Maybe I'll try that
live. That might be
fun.
fun. That'd be kind of cool. So yeah, we're all learning this, and we have new friends helping teach us.
A dingo.
All these.
Hi.
A dingo ate my baby.
Definitely hi.
Definitely hi. More great research going on down in Australia, my friend.
So much good stuff.
Oh, it just seems like Australia is the poppin' place right now. Cannabis is popping everywhere. Research is popping. Research is going to start popping, hopefully now in the United States. Now that things are loosening up over there in the House, and we're going to talk about all the news this week in this hour, in our free flowing, easy, Enjoy the show. Go with the flow. Enjoy the show. Show.
Yes.
So welcome everybody. What are we smoking? We have some Gorilla Glue.
We do.
We have some very nice Gorilla Glue that we are number 4. GG number 4.
Yes.
We are, not to infringe on anyone's copyrights.
That we got before the 9th of January. Just saying.
The end of compassion in California, January 9th.
Compassion has ended in California, guys.
And another major expansion of the black market. So
this is important
traditional
for those
market.
of you who don't have legalization, Prohibition 2.0, in your community yet. Maybe you can do it better than the other places have. Because, and also, Alexis and I were tweeting back and forth about this theme.
Oh, really?
Well, she was saying it out into the world, and it's really, we need to hold out for it to be what it needs to be. Because the way we did it in California and what's happening in Canada, patients are getting screwed. And people who really need this medicine are having the hardest time getting the medicine now.
Now that you mean now that it's legal and there's complete access for anyone over the age of 21,
yeah,
that cuts out a whole bunch of population that needs cannabis.
Yeah.
And then, oh yeah, you're going to pay the 35 or more % tax depending on what city you're in, and what state you're in, and how much they're going to. Basically, we're going to play a video in the afterburn from a cannabis. Longtime cannabis fighter warrior up in Canada, Jody Emery. She was recently on a Canadian show talking about what's going on up in Vancouver. And what's going on, folks, we're going to start talking about the news right away because there's a lot of news. And you can find a lot of news every week over on DC420LA.com, A Cannabis Chronicle. It's the newsletter I put out every Saturday. I tried to do it every day. It just didn't work out. And it just seems better on a Saturday. And it's a nice compendium. You can go through it the whole week and catch up on all your news that happened that week. And one, of course, the biggest story that I found this week was and I think it might be the biggest story with legalization in mind, is the cannabis culture forced by the city of Vancouver to close marijuana dispensaries. We often talk about how it is more illegal now that it's legal here in California. And it is being demonstrated in front of everyone up in Vancouver as these pharmacies, these plant pharmacies, essentially, are being shut down by the local government for profit only, for sheer corporate cannabis, for-profit recreational reasons, so that they can sell their government weed, official sanctioned cannabis, to the 21 and over crowd, make their tax money, and cut out the patients in the wake of their for-profit venture, and the stock market cannabis. The cannabis stocks are all part of this whole fazool. So that's, I think, one of the biggest stories of the week is what's going on in Vancouver and these shops being shut down. And there's a great video we're going to play in the afterburn and talk about that. So that's in the Chronicle this week, as well as here nationally. We have good news. Chela, we have the strongest, the better than ever Cannabis Coalition in Washington, the best cannabis caucus we could have, with Earl Blumenauer and vice chaired by Representative Barbara Lee here from California. Very exciting. And of course we have.
But I don't like alcohol and marijuana being equated.
Well, what do you mean? You mean HR 420?
I don't like it.
The conveniently numbered HR 420?
I hate to be that liberal. I hate to be that lefty that is just not happy. But I'm just not happy. I'm sorry I'm not happy, but I'm not happy.
The left is never happy.
Whatever, I'm not happy. We have more work to do. It's never done, right? Never done. It's
never done. It certainly isn't. Well, what's being done on this level, so we have our very strong cannabis caucus, despite the departure of Rohrabacher. Our caucus is stronger than ever. And Representative Earl Blumenauer introduced HR 420, which you would think on the surface is a pretty good plan. considering it removes cannabis from the CSA, Controlled Substances Act, and the purview of the Drug Enforcement Administration. So that would seem good on its surface. But if you dig a little deeper, and High Times did dig a little deeper, thank you, High Times.
Which is awesome.
Which is part of our theme this week, is that and also in the Chronicle, you see a lot of the cannabis media. Oh, I've got my
His readers on.
My Chuck Schumer glasses on, or my Anderson Cooper glasses on, depending on the angle. I digressed and I lost my train of thought. We were talking about 420.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's now it takes it out of the CSA and the purview of the DEA, but it shifts it over to the FDA and the Treasury Department and has it's right there in the title. I guess you shouldn't be surprised that it's now going to be regulated by, you ready for this one?
Yeah.
I love the name of this. It's no longer going to be the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives. At least they're taking explosives out of the title. And they're replacing it with marijuana. Alcohol, Tobacco, and Marijuana Tax and Trade Bureau.
That's explosive. I'm sorry. No. Look, I am totally on board with taking it off the CSA. I'm totally on board with people being able to study it. I'm not on board with taxing and regulating it like alcohol, because it's not like alcohol. And once you know that, after some of the science comes back, you'll realize, oh, gee, it's not like alcohol. And you'll have this huge, giant, enormous, huge, new government regulatory commission, and it's under the wrong thing, and then they'll never change it, and we'll be fucked forever.
Well, at least here's the good news: is all those police dogs that are out of work can go get a job with the Treasury Department and help them regulate cannabis over there, because they're going to be in charge of Mnuchin marijuana. Is going to be under this bill would be in charge of regulating the trade of cannabis throughout the legal states, and making it a federal crime with a small, little tiny penalty, knowingly transporting it into illegal areas. So, what do you guys think in the chat? Is HR 420 the idea that we're going to remove marijuana from the Controlled Substances Act? Which we're all on board of. And the DEA will not be able to, in the Justice Department, will not be able to do anything.
We like that. That part's good.
But how do we feel about it now being taxed and regulated by alcohol on a national level, or regulated anyway by alcohol on a national level? They're not going to tax it yet, because you can't put a national tax in. But it is in there, yeah. Well, it's allowing
tax.
Well, it's allowing states to tax, I think. Well, maybe there's more in there. The Fed's going to tax it too, and not allow it transported between
this is bad
states.
News.
It's too much. It's more over regulation, over control. If they wanted to do something, they should put it into the Farm Bill.
Yes,
that would be good.
We need to send Blumenauer and Lee a nice note that says that this is not the way to do it. I think that they probably think that their conservative or non-cannabis understanding, their cannabis naive counterparts will probably be more likely to pass such a bill because they liken the effects of cannabis with the effects of alcohol, because they are naive and they don't know. Well, so my friends, my people in the chat, I beg you to send a nice note to your elected representatives, educating them on the benefits of cannabis and how it is not like alcohol.
Well, the funny thing about this is that the FDA is already exercising their authority under, I don't know if it's the Farm Bill or what it is, but the FDA has already been confiscating CBD. They're there in the store, in the Chronicle this week. You can read a little side story in Arizona, Cosmic Lettuce, if you're jumping in. FDA officials seized CBD edibles from Arizona smoke shop. They basically sent in investigators, asked what in the store is edible by humans, consumable, that a human would eat, and they pointed the things out, and they came back the next day and raided them and confiscated all this stuff.
Because CBD is not for human consumption, according to them. They're
Not according to the state of California either.
I know.
Yeah.
They're so naive. They're so uneducated. And we have to... I feel like the best way to achieve our goals is to take a compassionate view of their naivete and not think that it's willful ignorance, and rather that it's being a victim of the racist practices of the last 70 years. Well, really, hundreds of years. But in this particular case.
Which continue.
Which continues, yes.
As noted in the Cannabis Chronicle this week, despite the Virginia governor calling for marijuana decriminalization in Virginia, several stories this week about Philly police still arresting way more black people than anyone else. White people get tickets and black people get arrested in Miami. Legal weed is great, but black and brown communities can't be left behind. So whether it's it seems to be a regular media narrative that despite decriminalization efforts and cities taking stances on this and not prosecuting, that we're still seeing more arrests, according to the FBI, despite fewer prosecutions. And we're seeing a new level of enforcement. You're seeing it up in Canada right now. And you saw it in Los Angeles. You're seeing it in Los Angeles. You're seeing it in California, where you're seeing a new level of enforcement that is, some would say, helping to drive some of the criminal element that's unwanted in the space out, and successfully so, from what I heard today in some instances.
But also driving out the small farmer, the small mom and pop.
That's right.
As well.
But also destroying in its wake, on the other side of the wake, a bunch of small family farms and companies that are trying to do good, get cannabis to patients. You see it here in California with Weed for Warriors, with Sweet Leaf. We talked about that in the last couple of weeks. And you see it now up with Cannabis Culture, whose lawsuit was arguing that they are needed to get medicine to patients that is a quality that's available as the drought continues. The cannabis of the legal weed drought up in Canada continues. There's no drought of weed in Canada. It's BC, right. Especially in BC. There's plenty of weed. It's like there's in Oregon. They're very close. And Washington. So there's lots of weed. It just you can't. They're not, the government and the corporate interests are basically creating monopoly. And you'll see it in the interview with Jody Emery in the Afterburn. But so we have this new Reefer Madness to go along with Prohibition 2.0. The horse is out of the barn, as it were. Legalization is happening. You're seeing it every single state this week. If you look in the news this week, the bills are just popping up like mushrooms all over the United States. Are popping up.
It's
Missouri,
like spores have spread all over.
Hawaii, one of the most really anti-marijuana states in the government. Ironically, yeah, is, they're talking about it. And now just breaking this week, or rather right now, Friday, Rhode Island is, the governor's like, I tag out. We're going for it. Everybody's doing it.
Can't resist any longer.
Can't resist. Do not. Resistance is futile.
Yes.
It's coming. So that, and there's another another new bill in the House that would basically make the Cole memo law across the country. It would protect medical, and I'm not sure if this legislation does states recreational as the States Act does. But the Cole memo we knew in the Rohrabacher-Farr and all its extensions, and the one that's in the spending bill this week, or whenever it gets signed, would protect it as well. But this would make it law. It wouldn't need to be an amendment anymore. It wouldn't need to be an add-on. It would make it a law if this bill passes. So that was just introduced Friday as well. So, it's we have action sprouting up all over the place. We have the new prohibition starting because they have the lists now. That's what they said in Murder Mountain. The sheriff's got the list of who is in the satellite pictures of who should be growing and who shouldn't be growing. We've got New York, now in the flood of reefer madness coming out of New York. We had that the New Yorker story came out, which was just exploded Twitter, which was the Malcolm Gladwell story in the New Yorker. And that just, Twitter went nuts over it.
It was crazy town. It was
psychotic story about cannabis and psychosis and violence.
New York, in the New Yorker. And New York is the number one consumer of cannabis in the world.
What do you mean? Oh, that was out here this week too, guys.
In the world.
We didn't get the drum roll.
Sorry.
We were going to have the drum roll. The Tribune, the Express Tribune, put out the list of drum roll. Thank you. We should spark. The drum roll would be the vaporizer. Turn that on, maybe. I don't know. But Karachi, of course, is the second largest consumer. But that's the headline, because I guess this is an international paper. But for our concerns, for another year in a row, the top city consuming the most cannabis per year. New York City. 77.
Go New York.
77.44 metric tons of cannabis consumed in the city of the Big Apple. It should be the big bong apple, the big bong pipe, the big bud.
Big cola.
The big cola. That's it.
New York.
I like it. The big cola.
New York, you make us proud. But
Los Angeles coming in a measly fourth.
Yes, but second in the U.S. Only behind New York.
That's right. And Karachi, and we're talking New York like almost doubled Karachi. It doubled New Delhi.
It's amazing.
Which is interesting. And then Los Angeles, Cairo, Mumbai, all not very cannabis friendly countries.
Yeah.
As I read it. London, of course, has its prohibition problems and its drug war.
Yeah.
Chicago, where
I
guess the candidates. Oh, and Moscow. Look, Moscow's on the list. And they hate cannabis over there.
They're super anti-cannabis.
Oh, they hate it.
They'll chop off your hand. Probably not really. Maybe,
and Toronto. Measly Toronto coming in. Not even Montreal, where Montreal supposedly smokes more cannabis based on the poop test that Canada recently did.
Huh, there's a discrepancy here.
There seems to be a discrepancy.
Toronto or Montreal?
This might be a weed index, from the weed index. So I'm not sure how...
Excuse me.
How reliable the weed index is there.
Well, it's a fun little list.
But good thing that... in Chicago. That's what it. Chicago was on that list.
Yeah, let's talk about them.
Just real quickly, this week, all 13 Chicago mayoral candidates unanimously endorse marijuana legalization at a forum. CJ Apo, there you go.
This is awesome. Because before... it was, which candidate supports cannabis? Which one?
Right.
Of the 13 are we going to look at that support cannabis?
There were a couple of light qualifiers there, and it's like, no, just a yes or no answer. So, and they put it out there. So there you go. All 13 candidates in Chicago. And meanwhile, in New York, the recently inaugurated mayor, de Blasio, friend of cannabis, the mayor.
He's been the mayor for a long time.
But apparently, has he?
Yes.
What did he just do?
Hey,
he had his
CJ.
state of the state.
We're talking about your state, dude.
CJ, hey, we're talking about Illinois. We're just saying that you just heard. You might hear it right now. Considering you're a little behind. But yeah, he's been the mayor for a while, right? Okay. Well, what is it? Oh, it's the legal. Oh, I know what it is. It's the legalizing of cannabis that's new in New York. That's right. What it is.
Yeah.
They all seem fresh and new as soon as they come on the cannabis train.
Yeah. I love this story.
But yeah, it is a pretty good story considering what's going on with regards to corporate cannabis up in Canada,
everywhere,
all
over the entire planet.
As Daily Dope documents weekly.
Daily Dope,
if not daily, as the name implies.
Daily Dope, we love him.
Out there in the Midwest.
He's so good.
Corporate cannabis is coming everywhere, folks. And so they've got their new Reefer Madness with their hitmen like Malcolm Gladwell and others writing hit pieces, putting out Reefer Madness like Marijuana Mountain, which might actually backfire.
No, it was Murder Mountain.
Murder Mountain, sorry.
And the main upshot, I was watching Gross Sisters today, and
yes.
if you don't watch them on Instagram, you should. If you don't follow them, you should. So Grow Sisters they are in Humboldt. They grew up on the mountain in Alder Point. And they know the community. They know all the growers. They are growers themselves. They know what's going on. They had a great show today. You should watch it before it goes away. But in their main upshot was, hey, you got to know, like we always say, know your source, know your people, do your homework, do your research. If a filmmaker is coming to your community, try to find out what they were into before. Find out what their motives are. Find out what, maybe their motives were pure. Maybe they really did want to make a story just about a documentary about the legalization in Humboldt and how it's affecting the community. Maybe they did want to make that
And they came across this really crazy, sensational story that would make a great docudrama on...
Right. And it just happens to be that the filmmaker is kind of a horror filmmaker guy.
A true TV guy, yeah, or something, or whatever it was.
So he's a true crime guy.
It should have been two series.
You do what you know.
Now, here's the thing. I also picked up on that broadcast by the Grow Sisters that because they had a guest on that was in the movie in Murder Mountain.
Uh-huh.
So definitely watch
one of the growers.
Catch that broadcast. One of the growers that's spotlighted, and it might be it might end up being because now they have exposure. People are talking about it. People are inquiring. It has changed. The environment has changed dramatically, and it does. It comes down to the fact that you have a prohibition across the country that allows an element to exploit laws that are for whatever reason makes an enticing, profitable area for greedy people. And then you have, you throw meth into the mix and, you've got there you go. You've got Murder Mountain. So, know your grower, know who you're going to go trim for. I'm sure the trimmers, in the chat would agree with that. And now Ernest of Gaia has basically a co-op of trimmers to, help support them and protect them and make sure that they're getting a living wage and safe working conditions and whatnot. So did they use that sensational case still ongoing? By the way, has not been solved technically, probably never will. Did they use that case to help get the message out that was buried in that movie in that series? Because one of the criticisms that was brought up on the Grow Sisters broadcast was that that one of the criticisms of the series was that the story about legalization and its effect on farmers kind of took away from the really cool murder story that they were enjoying. So did it help get the message out? Was it buried in there? Did the message that, they wanted to get out with their intention of being filmed up there, did that end up getting out? Are more people now going to see it because of it was sensationalized and some of these stories are now going to go out?
Yeah. Well, one of the sisters was saying, all publicity is good publicity. Right. Because it makes people talk about it. It makes us all talk about it. We're engaging about it. We're saying, hey, it's not really like that, or this is my experience and that's their experience, and
as with all bad media, as opposed to censoring, what you do is you get more good media. That's right. And good information out. You don't cut off necessarily the voice. You just add more sane voices and more stories that you should be told, as opposed to what's being told for profit. Obviously the reasoning and the motive is there. They want people to see it. They want people, they want to.
But there's Netflix so many great stories of light and goodness and medicine and healing, right, in that community that need to be told.
Exactly. So
we're hoping that more YouTube channels will pop up and more Instagram TV shows will pop up. We're hoping that more people like the Grow Sisters will do more things like that. We're hoping that the medicine women who've been working in the community for, 30, 40, 50 years start getting more media savvy people with them to help them show the world what cannabis really can do. And maybe not just cannabis. Maybe, like you've been watching all those awesome mushroom videos.
Oh yeah, I've been caught in the mycelium web of
it's
net
awesome.
of Paul Stamets.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I watch his TED Talk every year to figure out how to just be reminded how our ancient ancestor, the fungus, the mushroom, really knows how to take care of this planet and everything that's on it. And we should go back to listening to what they said, and we could maybe change what's going on this planet. But and in ourselves. I mean, that's the good thing. I mean, look at what's going on with psilocybin. Denver is looking at decriminalizing psilocybin. I think Oregon is trying to pass it. The FDA put it on the breakthrough therapy list, so even the FDA knows there's something there. Yeah. And the studies and everything that's going on at MAPS, and hopefully what more studies will be done with MDMA and other things that people are actually seeing real results, and cannabis, where results are happening for all kinds of things, like for schizophrenia, with CBD.
Well, I think
for PTSD.
I think that stuff that helps the brain is on the Schedule 1 of drugs.
Right.
We were talking about that earlier this week, right?
Mm-hmm.
That maybe the reason why we're having an increase in dementias is that we've deprived ourselves of the things that nourish our endocannabinoid system for so long. Anyway.
Or support them.
Yeah.
Support the endocannabinoid system.
Yeah.
Such as mushrooms and cannabis. Yeah. All these plant materials that they're just like, it's like basically the church, back in the day says, you can't put those mushrooms in the beer anymore. We're going to make that illegal because they need to come to us to see God, not in the
beer.
Not in the mushroom.
Not in nature.
But mushrooms have been a big part. It's really, so we're not going to get into mushrooms, but it's an amazing.
We digressed a little bit.
We digressed a little bit because,
but it was good.
Lion's mane and turkey tail.
Yeah, look those up. But we were talking about the mayor of New York.
Yes.
I love that story in High Times.
Well,
Let's have a look at that.
he's gonna supposedly he's gonna try to keep corporate cannabis out of New York City. How he's gonna do that, because MedMen's already there. Of course, MedMen's having its own legal issues right now, and we've heard, sort of through the grapevine that they've got problems. But I'm not crying for MedMen, but the New York City mayor intends to prevent cannabis corporatization if legalization succeeds. So, why is that story so make you so encouraged?
Oh, it's just so hopeful and lovely and warm and fuzzy. Because most politicians are only too happy to have corporate cannabis take over the space, like Kamala Harris was. She's like, oh yeah, these two people should do it, and that should be it, and that should be cannabis for California. Yes, please. That's
right.
good.
Well, she's on board ending prohibition now, isn't she?
Yeah, but
did she say that in her new book?
But still, I don't know. But I know that she's a super corporatist, and those people are not on board. They don't understand cannabis.
And she may not even be running for president. Who knows?
Whatever. I don't care. That's
but I'll tell
another show.
But you know who is running? Normal's top gun.
Oh?
Right? Tulsi Gabbard.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
Isn't Tulsi Gabbard Normal's Gabbard? like number one
they do like
cannabis
her.
Yeah,
she's got an A+ rating.
Yeah.
With Normal. It's true. And Tulsi Gabbard is running for president. That's exciting.
And she is the co-sponsor of the Ending Marijuana Prohibition Act. Is that it? No.
Yeah. Yes.
Wait, I had it up.
Yeah, you had it up.
I don't remember the exact title, but it was also to remove cannabis from the CSA.
Canacrat is mentioning that they've been microdosing psilocybin for a week now, 0.5-ish gram every fourth day. I've never done shrooms to this point. I've not tripped, maybe anecdotal, but I have felt uplifted since starting. Not high.
Yeah, I can concur with that.
Just happier. That makes sense. I know someone else who also has microdosed every several days and also is elevated.
I've heard that as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Canacrat might have heard that here. I don't know.
Yeah. Gary Bergen wishes that Indiana would legalize it for medical users that need this. Yes, Gary Bergen, you should write and call your all of your elected officials. Every single one.
There's action in Indiana, mostly a lot of it towards hemp.
Yeah.
But there's action towards medical cannabis in India. There's action in almost every state.
Yep.
Except maybe Alabama.
We're getting there. It's okay. It's okay.
I swear, when we find one, when one pops up, we're going to have a party.
We get so excited.
But there are so many states. I mean, that are just it's popping out all over the place.
It's true.
Virginia is a hotbed right now. Virginia is a huge hotbed. But everybody's worried about the driving. Literally, I mean, they had this one study comes out of Michigan, University of Michigan, that says half of the people that smoke cannabis, medical marijuana, are high while they're driving. So now every media market picked up on it this week. We're not going to play that many of them in the afterburn, but every media market picked up on it this week. So everybody's, it's like, and it's always weeks now. For weeks now, we've been reporting. It always is. It's our major concern because of this confluence between alcohol and cannabis that they keep doing, which Representative Blumenauer just did again. What are you doing?
Blumenauer of all people.
So,
of all people.
And that, look, that's, and if that passes, it's not going to pass, but so it's not going to pass. Why do that? I guess because you're going to get, you don't have any co-sponsors yet. So where's the caucus as far as co-sponsoring goes? We have the Marijuana Justice Act. That is been co-sponsored by the chair of the committee it would come up in. So, maybe we'll hear that. That's the Barbara Lee. So there's a couple. Lee's got one. She's the vice chair. Blumenauer's now co-chair. She's a co-chair. Sorry. Co-chair of the Cannabis Caucus. And Blumenauer's got his, essentially the corporate cannabis legalization bill. The Barbara Lee's bill is the Marijuana Justice Act. And that goes much deeper with regards to social justice and addressing the drug war. Whereas the new one that's just 420, HR 420, how cute, jumping on the culture. God, I hate people that do that. At DC 420 LA. But yeah, so we've got that, which is basically says, we're just going to throw it over and we're going to throw it into the guys that bust the guys that do much, the beer, the guys that regulate the beer. So you're going to see weed. What are you going to see? Weed at the liquor store? Is that what's going to happen? Are we going to start selling cannabis once they legalize it, around the country? So you got those two bills. So will those come up for discussion? Let's see. Let's see which rises to the top, as it were, the cannabis cream,
we'll see.
Or the bubble hash, what bubbles to the top.
To the tip of the cola.
Of the Cannabis Caucus, to the tip of the cola.
McStabwood, people with a constantly saturated endocannabinoid system are excellent drivers. Yeah, weren't you saying something? What's the biggest danger?
Yeah. Well, my contention is that the biggest danger with driving while high is dropping your chalupa.
Yeah.
That's the most dangerous. That's the most dangerous part. We determined that driving down the Disneyland to see my family.
I was not eating a chalupa. I just want to be on the record.
No, we were
just making jokes.
We were eating vegan donuts, but chalupa is a much funnier word.
Chalupa is much funnier than donut.
And Taco Bell is the number one munchy place.
It's true.
According to some survey.
That's what they've said.
By some cannabis media, which is now, I am seeing all this week, or the last few weeks, really, like Civilized, Mary Jane, High Times, really seeing an effort to do more. Maybe it's the upward push of the small cannabis media that is looking at some of these stories, like Grow Sisters, like Swami Select, like Reefer Revolution Live. Yes. Subscribe, get notifications, make sure you ring that bell to find out when we go live. We do it every Sunday at 4:20. But it's good to see that these guys aren't just selling grinders and the best glass and strain reviews, which is all important.
It's all important stuff, we understand.
All important stuff. But there's a lot going on in politics, and so we like to see we're seeing more and more stories. Well, They've done them in the past.
It's been
AJ. He's always written great stories.
Right, and it's
AJ Harrington. Sorry.
It's not that those product stories aren't important. They are. It's just that really, like you're saying, to say that everything's legal, it's not like that. You know, Whitey's got his weed, but people of color are still getting arrested.
John Boehner's all in on cannabis.
So
now's the time to be all in on cannabis.
Now we're seeing the major cannabis outlets, cannabis media outlets, talking about it as well. So that's exciting. I'm glad that they're doing that.
Certainly more. Vegan Metro. Taco Bell is also a great place to get vegan fast food. Really?
We heard that from our vegan niece earlier today.
Oh, we got full vegan exposure this weekend.
On the Taco Bell because we were telling them the joke that we wrote, of course.
Is there a healthy junk in Vegas? I bet there is.
I'm sure there's something like it.
Didn't Vegas just get a cafe? The cannabis cafes are starting to pop up. Massachusetts is going to get one soon.
It's coming. I think it's a race between Las Vegas and
West Hollywood. Who's going to have the first ones? More people jumping in. Be good. It's B. Good evening, everyone. B. Hello,
Hi,
B. Any relation to V or Q?
I really love how all the politicians are also starting to jump on it.
Oh, well, yes. They're all out of the...
13 of those guys, all people running in Chicago.
Yeah.
The Surgeon General saying, yeah, we need to be able to study this.
Oh, yeah. Can't really study this, and maybe we should. We should study this stuff, and it's not really easy to do.
Hard to study.
Tough. Yeah, we've been telling you that for a while.
And then another, what was it, Civilized or High Times saying that, oh yeah, there are records, federal agencies are saying that it's hard to study. Yes, It's hard to study because it's still on the Controlled Substances Act, because it's still on the Schedule 1. Everybody who doesn't know, everyone who's cannabis naive, kind of curious, doesn't realize that cannabis is still impossible to study. It's still on the Schedule 1 of drugs. It's just like heroin, according to the law. And that's crazy town. It needs to change. And you and me and we are all going to change that. So we all need to write our Congress members and all of our elected officials. Some of you who follow me on Instagram may have seen my post. I wrote, I think it was 5 postcards this week, to our elected officials, asking them to please be our champion for cannabis normalization and getting it off the Controlled Substances Act. Like Alexis Bortel is trying to champion getting it off the Controlled Substances Act with the federal cannabis lawsuit, which we don't have an update on, but we're excited about.
Well, the longer I'm not rushing it.
No,
we're not rushing it because we want it to go longer. The
That's
longer
right.
it goes. And RBG is still down for the count right now, so we want her to be hearing stuff. And I don't know how that all fits into the whole scheme of things, but apparently it does, and we're good energy towards that.
Yep.
So it's happening on many fronts. A lot of these bills would remove them from the Controlled Substances Act, but with these caveats, creating this whole new bureau under the Treasury Department, the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Marijuana Tax and Trade Bureau, part of the Department of the Treasury. Please,
I don't understand why government gets expanded so much under Republican presidents. That's really confusing to me.
That's the Blumenauer bill.
But if it passed, it would be under
a Republican
president. And the reason they made it that way is so that the Republicans will get behind it, because they only see cannabis as a sin situation.
Well, that's like, you couldn't...
Guys, we have a lot of work to do.
Reagan couldn't get NAFTA, so Bill Clinton had to do it. And Bush couldn't get Romney Care, who lost. And so Obama could do it. So we have a very good point. And but that would be a shame to create a whole nother bureaucracy and allow just a whole nother level of enforcement. The FDA is raiding hemp shops for their CBD. For Jimmy, somebody's got to make a parody video of this, of FDA / now the new DEA agents. And
totally. I completely forgot about this bag, you guys.
FDA
Sorry.
911. Oh my God, we have a full bag over there.
2 joints and a bag. Take that.
It's Reefer Revolution live problems here in California. More smoke, as they say here in Hollywood.
More smoke. Well, we're going to be living off the supply we got on January 8th for the next year. Just like Sweet Leaf Joe.
Right.
Figured out a way.
And we're going to grow.
Yeah,
we're going to get a box, and we're going to grow in a tent. So we'll get one, and we'll get something in 3 months so we can start curing.
There's a nice chat. We got to watch Stabby McStabwood's show so we can learn how to grow, and Grandmaster Level, and Bingus's show.
What's going on in the chat?
Well, we got some chat about growing.
That's cool.
They're growing, Stabby McStabwood is growing a Michelangelo.
Ooh.
He's looking to see what he can get off of one plant in a 3x3. I want to learn how to do that.
Yeah, where it makes it big.
How to make it big.
I mean, we literally have enough space to do 6 giant Volkswagen-sized plants in our front yard.
We do.
In front of our little cabin.
So awesome.
There's more room in front of our house than there is in our house.
Yeah.
But we are limited to a little tiny tent grow because we have to do it inside, or at least on our little back patio. And so it's going to be 2x2. And I'm thinking of maybe trying to should I make the biggest one plant I possibly can of one strain? Or should I grow like 2 plants in there?
I think you should do 2 because what if we fuck it up and we
what
break
if one dies?
Yeah. But it could happen. Irie Army, that's cute.
But that's going to be our quandary: is how to get our landlord to let us grow our plants.
I think we're moving in that direction. CJ, I would love to know more about your experience at the Errol Cup in Tempe, Arizona.
Oh, very cool.
Arizona is a little hinky.
We saw CJ and Holy Cannabis Oil. Welcome. I just
right.
saw you jumping in there. Hello, Timothy. Saw them up at Emerald Cup. It was great to meet our viewers and contributors into the chat. CJ, you're back in Arizona. Did you make it through LA? You were going to make it through LA at some point. I don't know. Did you hit me up? Did I miss you? Sorry. We just went down to Anaheim.
We did.
And avoided Disneyland, which was nice. But we did get to see our family, so that was cool. And our new baby. We have a new baby in the family.
There's also another one, Dude Grows Show, that 3-Man is telling us.
Fantastic. We're going to need all the help we can get.
Yeah, we do.
And we're probably going to do LED just because of the power concerns.
And the situation with,
right,
the renting deal.
But we are looking for some good genetics, some good seeds of something to do. Maybe something that won the Emerald Cup, maybe. I don't know. Maybe we should try that.
Well, we have access. We live in California.
Yeah, we live in California.
We can get beans real easy right here.
So that'll be fun to watch. The newbie growers, Reefer Revolution Live, long-time consumer, first-time growers.
Long-time recreational users.
Right.
That
I said users.
that we became medical marijuana
savvy
patients when that became a thing in the 90s here.
For I'll say it now, purely recreational reasons.
What we thought was purely recreational reason.
Which was silly because we had plenty of guys.
We wanted to be able to walk into a shop and buy the kind.
Yeah.
Anytime. And, talk to our guys too. We had lots of collectives in our life. But the novelty of being able to walk into a shop is really cool. So we became medical patients. And it was only after my mother got sick in 2010 that we started realizing cannabis is medicine. I never had anything, thank God, that was so awful medically. Like, I had headaches, yes. I had terrible, really debilitating, awful headaches. And I had terrible stomach problems. But I didn't consider them to be so bad like dementia. Dementia. Fuck. Dementia is bad.
Well, here's the thing. It's a vitamin.
It's a vitamin, you guys.
It's a wellness herb.
Cannabis is a vitamin.
So is psilocybin. So is psilocybin.
Like Alexis said, that the representative, Terry, I think it was, said that it's a medicinal agricultural product. I call that a vitamin. It should be a vitamin. It's a vitamin. It's a vitamin.
You want to make another part of make it another part of the agricultural department. Make it the Department of Agriculture, Medicinal Plant Division.
Yeah. I think that this whole thing could spark a medicinal plant revolution.
Ooh.
That's way too long. Reefer sounds much easier to say. But for realsies, medicinal plant revolution. Bonnie Lee's got me all laughing. Bonnie Lee goes, "Stop! You're funny when you're trying to be serious. You're so funny."
Especially the more I work on this bag of Gorilla Glue.
Oh gosh, you guys. Well, you all know. Some of you know. There's a lot of new people. But the reason we do the show is to show cannabis naive people that you can sit around and smoke a bunch of joints and talk about the news and still be able to type about as well as you were able to type before.
Listen, we can't go to bars.
No.
Because you can't smoke cannabis.
No,
there are no bars yet.
Poison there.
And we don't drink.
No.
So, which we it never ended well anyway. Never,
alcohol?
You're either, and at a bar, first of all, you got to get your car home. And it's not just dropping your chalupa is a problem when you're driving home drunk.
Right. No. Crashing the car is different than dropping your chalupa. Yeah.
So, unfortunately this study out of did they ask how many people go driving on their Oxycontin?
I'm certain that they
should have paired that up. And do you drive on Dayquil? Do you drive on Sudafed? How often do you drive on Sudafed? How often do you drive on Oxycontin?
When you are given drugs that that could impair your skills, your motor skills, there's a little sticker on the bottle that says, "Do not operate heavy machinery or a motor vehicle until you know how this is going to affect you."
What do you mean? What? It actually tells adults to use their own judgment as to whether or not they are too intoxicated from the medication as to get behind the wheel of a motor vehicle?
What? You sound so reasonable, Dave.
Well, that's on the label of Oxycontin.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Loads of drivers are driving with Oxycontin. All kinds of bad news.
Loads.
But,
I would venture, almost all of them.
Yeah. Loads and loads.
So we're moving on to the next story. What's the next story?
No, we're wrapping it up for the
first
hour.
We are?
Yes.
Are we that close?
We're really close.
We have 7 minutes.
We're close enough. We can wrap up the first hour short. It's fine.
Well,
and then we can move into the news.
Let's see what else is going on real quickly let's run through a couple of stories over here in the Chronicle.
Okay.
Just to wrap up.
I just don't want you to go long.
I hear you. Well, that's good. I actually, one of the things that we're like, what kind of a show do we do? What's our format? What do we do? Do we just talk for an hour? Yes, we're going to talk for an hour.
It's a talk show.
But I actually was contemplating putting the headlines, or at least the discussion of the headlines, at the end.
I like it.
So that sort of leads us right into what we're doing now in our last 7 minutes. And
so nice
eventually we'll get it down to a 4-minute and 20-second headline hash.
Whatever.
But until then, there's just so much news.
Flow.
But we've already talked about a lot of it. But of course, the Cannabis Culture story we're going to get right into in the afterburn. The first story up is going to be Jody Emery speaking to Canada TV, CTV, about the situation, and pretty much sums it all up as to what's going down with Prohibition 2.0. Of course, we've got Jared Polis, our nation's first pot governor, over there in Colorado, and
he's also gay and Jewish.
But no, he's our first nation's gay Jewish pot governor. Because there are
a lot of them.
all these other pot governors who are. This is not a progressive show. Okay,
politics.
This is a cannabis show. Okay, he's Colorado's pot governor, Jared Polis. And he's all about the hemp too. He wants to get industrial hemp. He picked it up in his State of the Union speech. State of the State. Look, yes, he has been governor. First time up. It's the mayor that's been mayor. The 13 Chicago mayors, we saw that. Let's watch that. This was fun. Since we're going to move into the headlines and into the afterburn.
Do you support legalizing recreational marijuana? Dorothy Brown, yes or no?
Yes, but I would say we need to make sure that we have an
yes
addiction.
Gary
Something
Chico?
related to addiction.
Thank you for the yes. Gary Chico?
Yes, I was the first person to call for it in this
Bill
race.
Daly?
Yes, we could be happy and we could
Amar
be broke.
Anya?
Yes.
Amar Anya, was that a yes? Bob Philretti.
Yes.
LaShawn Ford.
Yes.
Jerry Joyce.
Yes.
John Kozlov.
It's going to happen.
Lori Lightfoot.
Is that a yes or no?
My thing is, I agree with people if they want to
Yes
smoke
or
weed,
no?
smoke
No,
weed.
no,
But
no,
my
wait a
thing, I just don't want kids
Wait
to
a
be
minute.
introduced to it at an early
All
age.
right, Lori. Was that yes or no? Just to be clear.
That was just for adults,
Lori
no for
Lightfoot.
kids.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Gary McCarthy, recreational marijuana. Yes or no?
Yes, with conditions.
Susanna Mendoza.
Yes.
Paul Vallis.
At risk of getting hollered by my mother tonight who's watching,
Yes
yes.
or no? Okay. Willie Wilson. Yes or no?
They're going to smoke it anyway, yes.
They gonna smoke it anyway. Yes.
There we go. Chicago, CJ, coming to your town, baby. As Chela said, also in the Chronicle this week, federal officials recognize how marijuana's legal status blocks research. Documents show.
Not just documents.
So
like
it's
doctors.
Hey, you know, guys, there's a problem here. Oh, really? Yeah. Thanks for telling us. Great news. Civilized, of course, they picked up on this Malcolm Gladwell story. That's in there. We talked about that a little bit. That piece is really... Oh, Jimmy Dore picked up on this week, too. Jimmy Dore did a great video on how Twitter erupted over Malcolm Gladwell's New Yorker piece to follow the New York Times piece last week, all calling out about the psychotic problems and violence that legalization of marijuana is going to cause if we're not careful. So the best one down here was this one by a guy by the name of Lobster Boy. Not number one national bestseller, Reefer Madness 2. Weed will fucking kill you. By the author of The Tipping Point. That was pretty funny.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he's a hired hitman for that stuff. Of course, Karachi, New York City. You are smoking all the weed, apparently, that we grow out here in Emerald Triangle. Apparently, a lot of weeds get in New York City somehow, and they are smoking 77.44 metric tons of it every year. Second only to Karachi at 41.95, Los Angeles measly 36.38. What else? Oh, yes, de Blasio making sure that corporate cannabis is not going to invade New York City. Good luck with that, Mayor. Good luck with that one. So that's it. The other breaking news this week, we've got a new bill that would basically make the Cole Memo permanent. And we'll see how far that goes. But the Cole Memo, of course, protecting states that have legal cannabis. We'll see if it also, or legal medical cannabis. We'll see if it works with recreational. I'm sure it will, considering all the money that's going to be made. And Rhode Island, the latest on the list of governors, surrounded by the green, says it's time to and proposes legalizing marijuana for the state of Rhode Island. That little state is going to be very green very soon, along with some hemp, I'm sure. So yes, Chicago, booyah! CJ Apo coming out of Illinois.
Exciting.
So there you go. See all those rockets we're sending out there, CJ? Those rockets of intention for Illinois. It's happening.
It's going to happen in Alabama, Bonnie Lee.
It's going to
happen.
It may be the last one, maybe one of the last. I mean, because even Wisconsin and Nebraska is showing cracks in the medical cannabis side. So another dynamic week here, folks, in cannabis news, brought to you by Reefer Revolution live every Sunday at 4:20 Pacific. Make sure you subscribe, get notifications, ring that bell, and do what you do on whatever platform you might be watching on. We're broadcasting on YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, Twitch, DLive, and WeTV, the Cannabis Media Network. So do whatever you do, of course, engaging on YouTube chat. The chat has been lively and active. RBU jumping in. Believers in there. Bonnie Lee, of course. Jingo ate my baby. We got all of the South representative
Super South.
in all of the hemispheres. So welcome, everybody. Vegan Metro, MDM Nels, Veg Scrom Bloom. Haven't said hello to you this evening. Canocrats in there. Stabby McStabwood. 3-Man. Welcome, Stabwood. 3-Man. Believer, one of our patrons. Welcome. Our first patron. We do have a Patreon goal happening of 420 patrons. That's our what do they call it, campaign going on over at Patreon. We'll drop the link in the chat as we get into our afterburn. But you can become a Patreon if you're so inclined for as little as $1, as much as you want. We're going to go for a 420 OG Patreons that will be part of our growing of this channel and of this show. And we're taking it on the road, as it were. We've already tried out our Sling Studio a little bit, and we did a beta testing at the Emerald Cup, and that was successful on many levels, and we look forward to using it again and telling more stories that need to be told up there in Northern California, and to counter this new reefer madness in this new Prohibition 2.0 that is not only helping to break up the black market. Really? Not what the numbers are showing. But it also in its wake is destroying many, many family farms that have been making their living and supporting their families for decades on a broken system.
Yeah.
On a broken system of prohibition, the original prohibition of cannabis, now going into Prohibition 2.0, that if you don't play the game, the tax and regulate scheme, if you're not paying up, pay to play, you're part of the problem, and compassion is not part of that equation. We're going to try to get that back in California.
Yeah.
But right now it's for profit, and that's what we want to avoid. That's what we're seeing in Canada. We're seeing now what's happening. We knew it was going to coming. It was being challenged, and now it's happening. And one of the first, we're going to get into the afterburn. Thanks, everybody, for watching. This is Reefer Revolution Live every Sunday at 4:20 Pacific. Subscribe, get notifications. 1 hour. Right? On the money.
You went over.